The Canadian dollar is tanking, interest rates are high, pretty much every property anywhere is cash flow negative, and unemployment is on the rise. And all these play a massive role when it comes to investing in real estate, but I don't think that is the main reason why investors are choosing to not buy property in BC. So I talk to real estate investors almost on a daily basis, and something that rarely ever comes up is the actual numbers behind the property. Investors aren't saying, oh, the properties are cash flow negative, or I think prices are going to keep going down, or I'm worried about unemployment. I pretty much rarely hear these things. And the reason why is that property here in, mostly pretty much almost anywhere in BC has been cash flow negative for a very long time, aside from, northern BC. What has changed over the last 2-3 years is regulations. Every regulatory change has a positive and a negative reaction. And what should be the goal when we implement new policy is that the positives outweigh the negatives. And I'm all for some level of regulation. I don't think the market should just be 150% free with zero regulation. It's just the wild, wild west. I think there should always be at least a little bit of regulation. But when it gets to a point that the negatives are heavily outweighing the positives, then I think personally that we should change something. Take Airbnb, for example. We banned it outright as an investment across the province. Some people agree with that. Some people disagree with that. I personally don't think that was the right approach. I don't think completely outlawing Airbnb, unless you live in the property, is the play. Listen, the demand for those properties was there to begin with, right? It's not like these people who are running these Airbnbs were losing money. They were making money on them. That means that there was people willing to come into BC or Vancouver or wherever and then rent those properties for 2 days, a month, whatever it is. And now that that demand has gone away, you can't travel to Vancouver or anywhere in BC and then, be in one of these luxury properties for your vacation. You have to go to a hotel, which are most likely booked full these days, or the room rates to book a hotel are extremely high, and that actually deters people from coming here. They don't spend money to come here. They don't spend money into our economy when they're here, which obviously pushes up demand for goods and services, which pushes up the price for those things. And then those companies hire more people or pay more money to the employees they have, which raises wages and so on and so forth. So I do think that there should be more regulation on Airbnb. I don't think outright banning it was the right play. And I personally feel like the negatives of that regulation are going to outweigh the positives. Now, we take a look at the current tenant laws. Rent control has positives and negatives. So an example of a positive is it's great for a tenant who already lives in a unit, right? Because they don't have to worry about any volatility within their monthly rental payment. It can go up maybe 2 or 3%, whatever the government prescribes every single year. And that's amazing for tenants who are already in the property. However, for tenants that are not currently in a property, that are now looking for a property, you have less inventory turning over in the market because tenants who would typically move if their rental payment were to change would move, right? If you're living in a 2-bedroom and you had a kid and now you need 3 bedrooms, well, you're probably not going to go and get that 3-bedroom if it means that your monthly rent has to increase $1,000 a month. You're probably going to make your 2-bedroom, work for the time being. And the result of that is less inventory churning throughout the market. And as you zoom out over a long time period, this is going to cause rents to increase at a faster rate. Instead of going like this, the trajectory might be like this, right? So it's good for tenants who are currently in a unit. It's not good for tenants who are, now looking for a place who aren't already in a home. But I actually think tenants are fine with rent control. Like even me personally, I don't care. I'm fine giving the tenant a little bit of a deal. Even like if the market rate is $2,000, I'm fine giving a tenant $1,850 a month or $900 a month. And I think most landlords are, at least from the people that I talk to, people don't really care about getting the maximum rent or maximizing the rent. What they care about is that the rent is actually paid. And if it's not, they have some recourse. Why is there no repercussions for bad tenants? Why is it that a tenant can just not pay rent and then it takes, anywhere from 3 to 8 months to get them out of the home? And while they're there, they can completely trash the place, cost tens of thousands of dollars in damage. And then when you finally are able to remove them, nothing bad happens. In what world? This is the only space where that is okay. If I stop paying my gym membership, I can't just go into the gym, work out, throw the weights around, bust up all their weights, and then smash the mirror on the wall, and nothing bad happens. I might get charged with trespassing. I might get charged with destruction of private property. Yet, for some reason in real estate, I probably get every other month or so, somebody will call me basically distressed. Like I had this one girl call me not too long ago. They bought a pre-sale townhome and they decided not to move into it because they just had a kid. So I guess they decided to continue living at their parents' house. Not even a year later, they decided they wanted to move into this townhome. So the tenant's lease was up soon. So they served them notice being like, hey, we're going to move in the new year. So they went by to check out the townhome. Townhome was completely trashed. This is a brand new townhome, not even a year old, probably $50,000 to $60,000 in damage in it. And then of course, once they served the notice, the tenant just stopped paying rent. And now they have to go through the whole process to remove the tenant. And then of course, once they get in that townhome, it's very unlikely that they're gonna, get any of that money back that they have to spend the 50, 60 grand to now basically renovate a brand new townhome, plus all the months in rent that they missed out on. So I think there should be protection for tenants. But I at least think there should also be some protection for landlords, because this is the main reason why people aren't investing in property. It's not rent control. It's not the interest rates. It's not the prices. It's not that they're worried about unemployment. Mostly, they're worried about the risk that if they get a bad tenant, that tenant's not going to pay them any rent and completely trash the house. I had another client of mine, brand new house. This house would have rented for like $6,000 a month. They put a tenant, couldn't sell it. They put a tenant in there. Again, tenant didn't pay them a single month of rent, cost them 8 months to try to get the tenant out. And then when he left, he drove his car through the garage door. And then again, absolutely nothing bad happens. I don't know why nothing is being done to at least provide some protection to landlords, because this at some point is going to cause a problem. And then the 3-month eviction notice that was, that eviction notice was 2 months for however many years, decades, and tenants never had any problems finding a new place within basically 3 months since they served notice. Now they've moved it to 3 full months, which is a lot of times 3.5 or even 4 months. And nobody was having a problem moving in 2 months for the most part. I'm sure there were some cases here and there, but again, this is just another wrench that makes it very hard to sell a tenanted property. So in my opinion, this is the main reason why people aren't investing in BC real estate. The tenant laws are extremely risky for landlords at the moment. And I think there either needs to be a big change in the tenant laws, or there needs to be a change in the way that we fund new development. Otherwise, no new owner-occupied housing is going to get built, because who funds most of the new developments that happen here in BC is investors. I would guess it's probably at least 60% of pre-sales are purchased by investors. And if investors are too worried about the tenant laws and potentially having their brand new unit getting trashed, well, then there's going to be no capital pouring into those projects, which means nothing new gets built, which means home prices will probably go up in the next 3-4 years when all that inventory should exist doesn't exist. And if we're not going to fix those tenant laws, well, then maybe we just have big corporations building rental housing. So, their risk is spread across 150 units as opposed to 1 unit. And the way that those projects are getting funded is a lot different. Maybe it's not going to the public and it's getting funded privately through an LP or something like that. So anyways, that's my opinion. I feel like the laws definitely need to change for investors to feel safe parking capital in BC real estate. I'm still selling a lot of investment real estate, but this is the theme that keeps coming up over and over and over again from the majority of investors that I talk to. And even myself, I recently sold my condo here in Abbotsford. I was going to keep it, but I had the same concern. I was like, if I get a bad tenant that doesn't pay me and trashes my place, that'll completely financially ruin me. That is not a risk that I'm willing to take. And then I had another property in Ontario that I also sold basically for the same reason. And I wanted to pull some capital out of that. But, I think that's the reality of the situation, and likely something is going to need to change before investors feel comfortable coming back into this market for the most part. If you want access to handpicked deals, market insights, I have a newsletter where I provide that every single day. You can find that using the link below. If you want to chat about buying or selling, I also have a booking link where you can book right into my calendar. I'm that Agent Kelly, and I'm making moves to move you. Peace.